Have you ever heard an atheist make this remark? Can God create a stone so big or so large that he cannot lift? If you have and felt a bit worried or confused about this argument, this video is for you. Today I will be responding to what we like to call the Omnipotence Paradox. Can God create a stone so heavy he cannot lift? So if you're interested in that, make sure you watch to the end, and I hope you enjoy this video. Let's get into it. So I think that there are three main solutions towards the omnipotence paradox. While a lot of other YouTubers have covered their own versions of debunking the omnipotence paradox, I like to try to make mine a little bit more different because I don't want to just copy what everyone else has said, because that's just not really helpful because there's a lot of resources out there already. So basically what I would do is that if you're interested in what I've done in this video, I will leave the links to the other videos which discuss omnipotence in the description below, and you can go check them out in your free time if you're interested in this detail. They cover other and even more objections against the omnipotence paradox, and hence are also very interesting, especially if you're interested in this topic. So the first objection that I would like to raise to the omnipotence paradox is the idea that the atheist misrepresents or misunderstands what it means when the theist says God is omnipotent. When the atheist takes the word omnipotent, they like to take it to mean God, or the omnipotent being, can do all things with a smaller bracket in the side and non-things. The reason why I say non-things as well is because logically impossible things aren't really actually things. They're just constructs that we make up in our mind, or we think we make up in our mind, but we're not actually thinking of them. With this definition in mind, I think we could actually see that the omnipotence paradox actually works with this definition. If omnipotence actually means what the atheist meant, then it follows that there actually is a problem about God creating a stone so big he cannot lift. But that's not the only definition of omnipotence, and it's not the definition that most theists adhere to. While there might be small changes or small differences between different philosophers and different people, they generally follow the formula that God is the greatest possible being, or what I like to say is God or an omnipotent being, let's say X, can do Y as long as X doing Y is logically possible. That means X can do all logically possible things. But since the fact of the omnipotence paradox is a paradox and is logically impossible, like this omnipotence paradox then becomes pointless or absurd, because that's not what the proponent of omnipotence, at least in my case, is defending. Because all we're saying is that X can do Y as long as X doing Y is logically possible. So since X doing Y in this situation, Y being the omnipotence paradox, is logically impossible, then X does not need to be able to do Y, omnipotence paradox, in order to be omnipotent. They could just not be able to create a stone so big they cannot lift and still be omnipotent. There's no change here to the definition or the personhood of God, so there's no problem under this definition. Another argument that I would like to raise against the omnipotence paradox is raised by Richard Swinburne. I was watching a video by Maximally Great Philosopher, I think that's the name of his YouTube channel, and he raised this objection, and actually he raised two objections from Richard Swinburne's paper called Omnipotence. What Swinburne basically is saying here is that at one point, right now, God is omnipotent. He could do all possible actions, including creating the stone. The moment he creates a stone, then there'll be something he can't do and would no longer be omnipotent. So since God has not created the stone right now, then it seems clear that God is omnipotent until he creates a stone. But then you might raise the question, well then, doesn't God need to be omnipotent? Well, a response to that, it's raised by Maximally Great Philosopher in a video on the ontological argument. So he basically postulates that God is necessarily omnipotent. So while he can make that rock, he necessarily doesn't make that rock and remains omnipotent throughout time, or timeless, or whatever theory of time you think applies to God. So basically, I think this maximally great philosopher's argument is very strong and is very cogent, and I think we can accept it and see that it's a very good objection to the omnipotence paradox. If you're interested in that video, make sure you check it in the link below. It's a very great video, and you should check it out if you're interested in ontological arguments and omnipotence paradox. A quick reminder, I'll be putting the links of other important and other helpful resources of omnipotence paradox debunked videos in the description below. So if you're interested in this video, make sure you check them out. They're very informative and very helpful. So let's turn to the final objection. The idea that doing something logically impossible is not actually something. This is an idea proposed by Wittgenstein and a lot of other philosophers, which basically says that a logically impossible thing isn't actually a thing. We may conceptualize and think that we're thinking of a logically impossible thing, but we're not actually thinking of it. We're just pretending that it does exist when it actually doesn't. A good example of this would be, can a married man be a bachelor, or a bachelor be a married man? I mean, it's clear that even God, omnipotent God, cannot necessarily change a married man and make a married man a bachelor, or make a bachelor a married man, or make a square a circle. These are logically impossible concepts which just aren't actually things. I mean, we might think they are, but they're not really things in reality. Hence, we can conclude that the suggestion that God creating a stone so big he cannot lift is logically impossible, and hence shouldn't be seen as a thing which God should be able to do. It just should be seen as a non-thing, and hence God's omnipotence remains intact. So from these three objections, I think that we could be confident when someone raises this omnipotence paradox and respond to them with precision, which would help you in any discussion with atheists. So if you're interested in more of this content where I interact with these popular arguments that I hear a lot in high school, and I also experience a lot in society around me when I discuss with friends, make sure you like and subscribe. It's completely free. Hit the bell button so you get notified whenever I make an upload. A quick reminder for what I'm going to be doing next. In the next video, I'll plan to make a longer video, or maybe multiple shorter videos, about proving the 8 historical facts with non-biblical evidence. The reason for this is because a lot of people like saying, well, you can't use the Bible to prove the Bible, or you can't use the Bible to prove the historicity of the events in the Bible. While that suggestion itself is wrong, I would like to make the case that even if you go along and play their game, you would still be able to defend the resurrection with solely non-biblical sources. So if you're interested in that, make sure you did exactly what I just said. Just like and subscribe. It's completely free, and you can always change your mind. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope to see you soon. Stay safe during this time. Have fun. Meet up with friends over Zoom. Make sure you listen to your health professionals and services near you. And thank you very much.